What's up, y'all? This DSA 1 UGA fan opinions and rants. How would I start off on this situation that just came up to my knowledge today listening to Dog Nation? Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban going at it again. This time it seemed like this is way more serious than what has happened in the past. And I'm saying it in the fact of I listened to a 19-minute video of Jimbo Fisher's press conference, and I skipped past a few minutes of it because it was nobody on the podium, and it just seemed like nobody was talking. So I skipped to the part to where Jimbo Fisher gets to the podium and he starts talking. Jimbo Fisher to me comes off as hurt in the aspect of somebody that he worked with and was cool with by what he's saying. I'm taking this in context of what he said. Would proclaim that his team, well, not his team, but the school paid players to come to the school. That was going on. I mean, that has been said when the NIL deal bust wide open and schools really started doing it. That's when I think him and Nick Saban had a few words then. That's what I mean by the second time. This time, which will be number 2, he's going at Nick Saban saying that how can you attack 17-year-old young men for getting paid to do what they love to do, as far as getting paid to play football for university that they chose to go to, which is what the NIL is for. And he brought up something like a committee or something like that. I forgot what it's called. The collective. He brought that up. And with that being brought into the equation of NIL deals, and I'm going to talk about transfer portals as well. With the NIL deals, in a sense, you're buying players to come to your school to play, also on scholarship to get their degree in whatever it is they're getting their degree in. Jimbo Fisher, to me, comes off as upset because Nick Saban is accusing him, per se, of buying these players and, in a sense, cheating the system to build the best roster. Jimbo also goes to say that Nick Saban is mad, little sphincter stressed, that he has an advantage, well, not advantage, but a way to make his playing field, or the playing field, even with Nick Saban or any other college for that instance, to be able to get recruits to play on a high level and go for a national championship outside of doing it the so-called old-fashioned way, recruiting the talent to come to the school, to play for the school, and you do it that way. Even though we've already known for years that players have been getting money under the table, now it's pretty much a legal situation where you don't have to hide it. You can just come out and say, look, I'm going to give you $1 million to come play for this school. Him and Nick Saban both made 2 valid points. If a player comes to the school, gets the NIL deal, and then transfers out, it hurts you. And this is mainly what Nick Saban was saying. Because he pointed to the crowd, Nick Saban was saying, if one of you pays a player to come to the school, the player transfers, let's say a year out after that, on top of not even playing, you're going to feel like you're not going to put money into students coming into the school to play because they got paid to not play and then leave. Kind of like a David Beckham situation where he played for the LA Galaxy, got hurt for like a year, maybe 2, and was paid a lot of money to ride the bench. And then he transferred back to, I think it's Manchester United. But anyway, that was years ago. But that also goes into what I'm talking about. This is crazy, and to me this seems like it's going to be a new rivalry between Texas A&M and Alabama. Nick Saban versus Jimbo Fisher. When Jimbo Fisher came out last year, or the year before last, I think, and said they're going to pretty much put the pause on Alabama and beat them. And then last year they did it. Then this year, in a sense, not necessarily the personal attacks per se, but an attack on A&M for, as Jimbo put it, we went by the rules to get them to come to the school. We didn't buy anybody. We just did what was in the rules, used that to our benefit, and we benefited from it. While also saying Nick Saban is upset that Alabama can't use the NIL, not can't, but hasn't used it to its full potential per se, that they can't get those same recruits if not for NIL. And Nick Saban is on the back end saying pretty much if it wasn't for the NIL, Texas A&M wouldn't have all those recruits. I'm not putting words in Nick Saban's mouth. Y'all can go look at the video. It's a 6-minute, I think, 19-second video that's on Alabama where Nick Saban speaking on such things. So I'm not putting words in nobody's mouth. I'm pretty much paraphrasing what's being said. And this is something that happened years ago. I thought about making a video on it then, but I'm really just not getting into it now. I think it was McElroy that was on a Sirius XM station that I was listening to, and he was talking about students should just go to whatever university, as far as sports is concerned, to play for that school. But at the time, he wasn't saying nothing about the coaches just up and leaving, not being fired, just like, okay, bump it, I'm done here, and just leave. That goes into what's going on now with the transfer portal. And it, to me, which has already been stated, I can't remember where it was stated, but it was stated that I think Deion said something on this. I want to say Nick said something on this, and maybe a few other coaches have spoke on this too. The transfer portal, in a sense, is hurting recruitment in the aspect of, if I want to get, let's just say, a 2-star recruit, I get the 2-star recruit, they're not getting what they feel like they should be getting, and they transfer to another school. If I wanted to pull a high school student in, excuse the noise, y'all, a high school student in to play for the school, I really couldn't do it, or chose not to do it, because all I got to do is go to the transfer portal as a coach and pull what I need to plug and play. That hurts those recruits who are trying to get in to whatever school that they choose to go to, to play for, but you can't get in because a 3-star recruit that played 2 years at, just throwing a school out there, not saying this has happened, but just throwing a school out there, that has played for Connecticut, transfers to Florida State, and a student that wants to go to Florida State can't get that spot because the coach has decided to go to the transfer portal and pull them in because of the experience that they have as far as playing on that level compared to a freshman who has no experience playing on that level. Even though his high school might have college tier playing environment, it's not the same as playing in college. We've seen that there's a complete difference in a college atmosphere compared to a high school atmosphere. So when it comes down to that is a very valid point. In a sense, that'll end up almost eliminating or extremely dropping the chances of high school students wanting to play for college, when they're like, if I can go to this school to play for them, but they're going to pull somebody from the transfer portal to come in and take my spot. Not only does the competition go up that much more, it makes it that much more harder for them to come in to that system and learn, even though they already know they're going to have to sit behind a sophomore, junior, and possibly a senior that's already getting playing time. They'll have to sit there 2 to 3 years, possibly 4 years, and get 1 to 2 years of a chance to play. And that's before transfer portal. Transfer portal now has made it harder. And that's one thing I do agree with Nick Saban on. Now back to Jimbo Fisher. He was stating some things that was like, somebody should have, as far as the parent goes, slapped Nick Saban upside the head for lying in general. Let me just say it like that. And then the thing that let me know Jimbo Fisher is with the shits, he want all the smoke. One of the reporters was like saying something to the effect of, how do you feel if there might be a confrontation? Not saying nobody's gonna be physical, but just a verbal confrontation when y'all meet up on the 8th or something like that. And this is how I'm taking it. Jimbo was like, I done had to deal with this type of stuff all my life. I kind of look forward to it. I'm not really even afraid of it, per se. Paraphrasing. So when they get a chance to meet up, it's going to be crazy. It might look like a political debate in there. Them two verbally going at each other like that, that's going to be something so serious. And I'm looking at it like when A&M got Jimbo Fisher, and he was already on a upward trajectory of trying to get Texas A&M to be another school to worry about that is going to be a threat. I figured Alabama was going to have to deal with them. Not just because they're in the West, because if Texas A&M play a team in the East, it's going to be an issue anyway. But it's like Jimbo came in to A&M with a chip on his shoulder like, I'm gunning for Nick Saban. Like, I'm coming to take the crown. I'm not saying Kirby's not. Kirby doing his own thing. And I'm glad that UGA staff and coaches are not putting themselves in the mix of this, letting them two say what they got to say and do what they got to do. Your name Bennett, you ain't in it. Stay the hell away from it. Let them argue it out. Let them battle it out, or whatever the case may be. But this here situation, the info that has came out today, it is going to be a crazy game when they play each other. And I really don't even know who playing at whose home. I don't know if Bama going to A&M, or I think A&M is going to Bama this year. So it's gonna be crazy. I think that's gonna be the game of the year. Bump everything else forget every other game that's coming on. I don't see any other game at this point being the game of the year. Texas A&M versus Bama. If Texas A&M coming to the game undefeated, Alabama coming into that game undefeated, to me that's going to decide who out of the West is going to the SEC championship. Most of us Georgia fans, we already see that Mississippi State, Oregon, and possibly South Carolina are going to be three thorns on our side that we got to get through. We get through those three, and possibly run the table and go undefeated again in the East, we going to see which one of those two is coming out of the West. It used to be Georgia and Florida for the East, and that was always a good game to see who's going to run the East, because the road to the SEC championship as far as the East side goes through Georgia. It's been like that since Mark Richt been there. So people saying Georgia really ain't did nothing. If you're in the East, you can't get to the SEC championship unless you beat us. But as far as the West go, as of right now, as of today, as I speak on it, y'all got issues over there, because y'all might have to go through Texas A&M and Bama to get to the West. To get through the West to get to the SEC championship. This is gonna be hot. Somebody done put what's that hot sauce? Some of that Texas Pete, because somebody done put this on everything that Jimbo Fisher talking about. He came out guns blazing, like, I don't care about nothing Nick Saban talking about. You done sit up here and in a sense tried to down my team, down my down the program. You talking bad about the players' parents, saying that they broke rules to get to this team to get money. As looking at it from a coach's standpoint, I can understand him having that type of fire and that type of outlook on the situation. You're not going to talk about these young men and say they did something wrong just to get here and taking Jimbo's look on it because you're frustrated or upset or sphincter stressed because you're not getting the same benefit. And another thing that was tripping me out about Jimbo Fisher, he was saying that if most coaches have been around Nick Saban, you know how he worked. That sounds, I guess you can say, accusatory, saying you know how Nick Saban get down when it come to getting recruits or come to playing the game. Like, I know some dirt on Nick Saban. Nick Saban, in the 6-minute clip that I seen, didn't even go that route. He just pretty much stayed on topic and what was at hand, speaking on college football being put in a situation to where teams are going to start buying players and creating an uneven balance as far as competition goes to get people there. And another thing that Nick Saban said that I've been saying in chat rooms, and I think I said it on a few of my videos, that there needs to be a cap or whatever you want to call it on this NIL money. I said it in my last video. Let's just say a player's getting paid, let's just say the cap is $250,000. If the school gives the player $100,000, then he goes and gets not a scholarship, but go get money from a business. Once it meets that $250,000 threshold, he can't get no more money. And that's for all players across the board in any sport. That way you can't buy a player to come play for your school. It balances everything out. And now people who are probably in the media, mainly in the media, and coaches are scratching their head like, what can we do to put a balance on what's going on, because teams, or schools I should say, are buying players to boost their roster and make their roster that much harder to beat. First thing that should have came out was it should have been a cap from the jump. We're going to have each school, no matter what level, have a cap to where all schools can afford it. So that way, he was mad at Jackson State for getting a player for $1 million. Okay, if all schools can afford $1 million, let $1 million be the cap. No higher than that. If all schools can't afford $1 million, drop it to where all schools can afford the same amount of money, and nobody can make a super team like in the NBA and have all these outstanding players where you got 23 something 5-stars on your roster and you pay for all of them per se. Once you balance it out like that, there's no way that a school can buy a player unless it goes back to the old way where on paper they're getting the $250,000, but under the table you sliding them an extra $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. That will be an issue, but we all know that has been going on before the NIL was even brought up. So in a sense, how can you stop it when the boosters are paying or businesses are paying? Now, the businesses are helping pay for students to come to the school, but you're mad when they get the money, they bounce and transfer to another school. If you make it like that all the way across the board, it'll be that much more. It'll, in a sense, bring it back to what it was before the NIL. The NIL is just putting it out there that that's what they're getting, but it will put a limit on how much they can get. Reggie Bush, for instance, at the time, nobody was supposed to be paying players. He ended up getting a Cadillac Escalade, a house for his mom, and they ended up winning the national that year. That was the second year they went, and I think they won it. I think the third time they went, Vince Young beat them, or something along that line. But anyway, I say 5, 6, 7 years later, the NCAA goes in and do an investigation. Come to find out, he did get paid for that. They took his Heisman. I think they restricted him from coming to the school, and then they took the national title away from them and gave it to the school that they beat. No school wants to deal with that. So put a cap on it, Make it to where all schools in the NCAA can afford it. If the super conference comes up, same exact situation. Make it to where all schools can afford it. Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban gonna be a hot. Alabama A&M is gonna be a hot game this year. I'm gonna try to catch it. It's gonna be nice. But other than that, DSA 1, UGA fan, opinion, and rants. I'm out. Oh, excuse me. Also, go to my MeWe page. If you don't have MeWe, get MeWe. It's pretty cool. If you had Google Plus before, it's like, I guess you could say a knockoff version of that, but it's still pretty cool. You can go in there and find almost anything you want to find. But I have 2 pages in there. One is NCAA discussions and trash talk. Another one is NCAA football discussions and trash talk as well. I made 2. One of them's like a bluish ocean blue color, and another one has a football on it with college football going across it. Find those, jump in there, let me know you in there, and you can go in there and talk some trash, drop some knowledge, whatever the case may be. Have a good time. Appreciate y'all. See y'all later.